We all know that most Disney films originated from older fairy tales, such as those of Hans Christian Andersen. But what about the wooden puppet Pinocchio? So many films about him weirdly came out these past few years. Around 3 to 5 if we're correct. Even Russia had one.
When can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
That's just too much wood. It seems that no strings were really holding them down anymore. But with all these stories, why don't we get to know the original Pinocchio for once? The original Pinocchio actually came from a series called The Story of a Puppet, or La Storia di un Burattino in Italian. It was published in the newspaper for children, or Giornali per i Bambini, way back on the 7th of July 1881. The story was written by Carlo Lorenzini, who took on the pen name Carlo Collodi from the town he grew up on in Florence. He began his career writing political essays and satires. After being disenchanted with Italian politics, he turned his interest towards children's literature. But his political pen was still kinda writing. He opened The Story of a Puppet with a paragraph saying, "Once upon a time there was a king. My little readers will no doubt say in a flash, 'No kids, you got it wrong. Once upon a time there was a piece of wood.'" The series continued up to 8 episodes at chapter 15 after almost 4 months, but readers demanded its return. The series continued again on the 16th of February 1882. A year after, on February 1883, the story was combined into a single book. And like many Disney films that were inspired by fairy tales, the original was much darker and twisted than the adaptation. In Collodi's story, a carpenter named Master Antonio had a block of wood that he planned to carve into a table leg. But the log cried out, so out of fright he gave it to Geppetto, a poor puppeteer next door. With the block, Geppetto made Pinocchio. Once the feet were carved, Pinocchio kicked Geppetto.
I'm a boy and I'm alive!
And after Geppetto taught him how to walk, the puppet immediately ran away into the town. The puppet also led people to believe that Geppetto abused him, throwing the poor old man in prison. Needless to say, Pinocchio in the original story was much naughtier and more sinister than in his adaptation counterparts. A talking cricket just like Jiminy Cricket was also in the original. He warned the puppet about being disobedient, but instead of being buddies, the naughty puppet just threw a hammer at the cricket, killing him in the process. If the cricket had wished upon a star, he could probably have been spared. Pinocchio also met a fox and a cat, who pretended to be blind and lame. They were probably the counterparts of Honest John and Gideon the Cat in the famous adaptation. But in the original, the two animals convinced Pinocchio to plant his coins to turn them into a tree of gold coins. The ghost of the talking cricket appeared before the puppet, warning him of the lies of the two animals and that he should give the coins back to Geppetto. But Pinocchio was stubborn and ignored his advice. The two animals ambushed and robbed him, then eventually hanged him on a tree and left him for dead.
You're dead, Pinocchio.
No, I'm not.
Collodi meant his death to be the end as a warning for children not to be disobedient. But the editor requested him to keep writing, and that's when the Blue Fairy appeared to save him. The fairy had 3 doctors evaluate him. One said he was alive. The other said he was dead.
I'm afraid the body is rigid.
But he's always been rigid. He's made of wood.
But the 3rd doctor was the talking cricket again, telling him how disobedient he has been. Pinocchio lied to the fairy about what happened to the gold coins, and his nose began to grow. That's where the idea of lies making one's nose grow came from. Things happened here and there, and eventually, Pinocchio learned his lesson and began taking care of his father. Pinocchio and Geppetto met the fox and the cat again, poor and destitute. Now, they were really blind and lame for real. The two animals pleaded for food and money, but Pinocchio told them that they deserved their fate. The cricket even had a chance for revenge to kill the puppet, with Pinocchio openly inviting him to do it. But the talking cricket decided to spare the boy. Should have been beaten with a hammer, but that's nicer perhaps. We're not going to go over the whole story here. This was just a quick skim to show how much Disney had a tendency of Disney-fying stories that were originally much more horrifying. Perhaps the horror movies of today could become the children's movies of tomorrow. Game of Thrones for children, perhaps?
Mamma mia! It wouldn't buy!
Which adaptation of Pinocchio do you prefer? The lighter and whimsical version, or the darker and grittier version? Let us know in the comments below, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the Generalist channel so you can be notified whenever a new video comes out.